when loving him felt like home. I didn't believe in the concept of home being a person until I met Oliver. Before him, home was a place. My childhood house in suburban Connecticut, my cramped dorm room at NYU, the studio apartment in Brooklyn where I'd lived alone for 3 years. Home was four walls and a roof, somewhere to sleep and keep your stuff. It wasn't supposed to be a feeling. It definitely wasn't supposed to be a person. But then Oliver walked into the coffee shop where I worked, ordered an oat milk latte with an extra shot, and smiled at me like he could see something in me I didn't know was there. And everything I thought I knew about home changed. It was a Tuesday morning in October, the kind of crisp autumn day that makes New York feel like it exists in a movie rather than real life. I was on autopilot behind the espresso machine, smile, take order, make drink, repeat, when he stepped up to the counter. "Hi," he said, and I swear the entire coffee shop got quieter. "Can I get an oat milk latte with an extra shot and whatever pastry you think I'd like, dealer's choice?" I looked up from the register and forgot how to speak for a second. He had these warm brown eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled, dark curly hair that looked like he'd run his fingers through it too many times, and an ease about him that made you want to tell him your life story. "The almond croissant," I managed to say. "Definitely the almond croissant." "Then I trust you completely." He handed me his card and our fingers brushed. Something electric passed between us, cliché but true. "I'm Oliver, by the way." "Adrian." "Nice to meet you, Adrian." He stepped aside to wait for his order, and I tried to focus on making his latte instead of replaying the way he'd said my name. When I handed him his drink and croissant, he lingered at the counter. "This is going to sound forward, but you have the kindest eyes I've ever seen. Has anyone ever told you that?" I felt heat creep up my neck. "Can't say they have." "Well, they should. It's the first thing I noticed about you." He took his coffee and pastry, then paused. "I'm going to come back tomorrow and order the same thing, and I'm going to ask what pastry you think I'd like, and I'd really appreciate it if you're working so you can tell me." He left before I could respond, the door chiming behind him. My coworker Zara appeared at my elbow immediately. "Oh my God, Adrian, that man was flirting with you so hard." "He was being nice." "He said you have kind eyes. That's not being nice, that's being interested." She nudged me. "Please tell me you're working tomorrow." "I am." "Good, wear the blue button down, it makes your eyes pop." Oliver came back the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that. Each morning, he'd order the same drink and ask for my pastry recommendation. We'd talk for a few minutes while I made his latte, about the weather, about his work as a freelance graphic designer, about my dreams of eventually opening my own cafe. The conversations were short, limited by the line of customers behind him, but they were the highlight of my day. On Friday, he finally asked the question I'd been hopping for. "Adrian, I've been coming here all week hoping you'd give me your number without me having to ask. But I'm impatient, so I'm asking. Can I take you out sometime? Dinner, drinks, coffee somewhere that isn't your workplace, whatever you'd want." I wrote my number on the side of his coffee cup, my hand shaking slightly. "Dinner sounds great." His smile could have powered the entire city. "Tomorrow night, 7. "Perfect." After he left, Zara let out a squeal that made several customers jump. I told you he was into you." "Okay, you were right." "Obviously I was right. Now we need to figure out what you're wearing." He took me to a small Italian restaurant in the West Village, the kind of place with checkered tablecloths and candles in wine bottles. We talked for 4 hours straight about everything and nothing. He told me about growing up in Portland, about coming out to his parents at 16, about moving to New York to pursue design and falling in love with the city. I told him about my conservative upbringing, about not coming out until college, about the rift with my family that still hadn't fully healed. "Do you talk to them?" Oliver asked gently. "Your family?" "Sometimes, holidays mostly. It's cordial, polite, but not warm, not like it used to be before I told them." I pushed pasta around my plate. "Sometimes I wonder if it would have been easier to just stay quiet, to pretend. But then you wouldn't be you, and you," he reached across the table and took my hand. "You are worth showing up as, exactly as you are." Something inside me cracked open at those words. I'd been holding myself together with such careful control for so long, terrified that if I let myself feel too much, want too much, I'd fall apart. But Oliver's hand in mine felt steady, safe. "Can I tell you something embarrassing?" I asked. "Please do." "I've been looking forward to your coffee shop visits more than anything else in my day. Like, I'd wake up excited knowing I'd see you for 3 minutes." Oliver grinned. "Can I tell you something equally embarrassing? I hate oat milk. I'm lactose intolerant, so I drink it, but I actually think it tastes like cardboard water." "Then why?" "Because it gave me an excuse to talk to you every morning. I would have ordered anything if it meant those 3 minutes." I laughed, really laughed, for what felt like the first time in months. "We're both ridiculous." "We really are," he squeezed my hand. "Adrian, I know it's only been a week, but I need you to know I'm not just looking for something casual. I'm 32. I'm done with games and maybes. If this isn't something you want to pursue, I get it, but if it is, I'm all in." My heart hammered against my ribs. Every self-protective instinct I had screamed at me to be careful, to guard myself, to not give too much too soon. But looking at Oliver across that table, his hand warm in mine, his eyes steady and honest, I knew that careful wasn't what I wanted anymore. "I want to pursue this," I said. "I'm all in too." Falling in love with Oliver was like learning to breathe properly for the first time. It wasn't dramatic or overwhelming. It was quiet moments that accumulated into something profound. The way he'd show up at the coffee shop on my break with lunch from my favorite deli. How he'd text me photos of dogs he saw on the street because he knew they made me smile. The Sunday mornings we'd spend in bed reading the Times and trading sections, his head on my chest, my fingers in his hair. 3 months in, I invited him to my apartment for the first time. It was small and slightly shabby, but I'd made it mine, plants on every surface, vintage posters on the walls. Shelves full of cookbooks I actually used. Oliver walked around slowly, taking everything in. He paused at my bookshelf, running his fingers along the spines. "You alphabetized them. Is that weird?" "It's perfect, it's so perfectly you." He turned to me with this look of wonder. "Adrian, I love your space, it feels like you." "It's not much. It's everything." He crossed the room and pulled me close. "It's warm and thoughtful and full of life, just like you." I kissed him then, slow and deep, and it felt like coming home in a way I'd never experienced before. Not to a place, but to a person, to the feeling of being fully seen and wholly accepted. Later, curled up on my couch with Thai takeout, Oliver said, "I want to tell you something, but I don't want to scare you." My stomach dropped. "Okay. I'm falling in love with you. Actually, I think I already have, and I know it's only been 3 months and maybe that's too soon to say, but I've never been good at hiding how I feel." He set down his food and took my hands. "You don't have to say it back, I just needed you to know." I'd never said those words to anyone before. I'd dated, had relationships, but I'd always held something back. Some essential part of myself that I kept locked away, protected, safe from being hurt. But with Oliver, I didn't want to hold back. "I love you too," I said, and felt the truth of it in my bones. "I think I have since that first morning when you ordered oat milk you hate just to have an excuse to talk to me." He laughed, and then he was kissing me, and we were both laughing and crying a little, overwhelmed by the bigness of what we just said. 6 months became a year. Oliver started keeping clothes at my place. I had a drawer at his loft in Williamsburg. We developed routines: Saturday morning farmers market, Tuesday night cooking together, Sunday afternoon walks through Prospect Park. Small, domestic things that felt monumental because we were doing them together. My coworkers at the coffee shop started calling him Adrian's Oliver and would have his drink ready before he even ordered. He designed the logo for the cafe I dreamed of opening someday, presented it to me on our 1-year anniversary with a note that said, "For when you're ready to take the leap, I believe in you." But it wasn't all easy. We fought sometimes about his tendency to overwork himself, about my habit of avoiding difficult conversations with my family about the future and what it looked like. But even fighting with Oliver felt different than it had with anyone else. We didn't run, we talked it through, we apologized, we chose each other even when it was hard. "You're my home," Oliver told me one night after we'd had an argument about moving in together. I'd been scared, resistant, worried about losing my independence. Adrian, wherever you are, that's where I feel most myself, most safe, most like I can breathe. I'm not trying to trap you or take away your space, I just want to build a life with you. And that's when I understood it. Home wasn't about the apartment or the stuff or even the routines. Home was this feeling of being known, being loved, being chosen every single day by someone who saw all of you and stayed anyway. Okay, I said, let's do it, let's find a place together. We found a one-bedroom in Park Slope with good light and room for both our stuff. Moving in together was chaotic and wonderful, arguing about furniture placement, combining our books, learning each other's living habits. Oliver liked the apartment cold, I liked it warm. He was a morning person, I was decidedly not. He left his socks everywhere, I obsessively cleaned. But we made it work, we compromised, we laughed at ourselves, we built something that was ours. The day we finished unpacking, we collapsed on our new couch, a compromise between his modern aesthetic and my comfort needs, and looked around at what we'd created. It's good, right? Oliver asked, a hint of uncertainty in his voice. It's perfect, I pulled him close, it's home. Because of the apartment. Because of you. 2 years after that first morning in the coffee shop, Oliver took me back to that same Italian restaurant. We ordered the same dishes, sat at the same table, talked and laughed like we always did. I thought it was just a nice anniversary dinner. Then dessert arrived with a ring on the plate. Oliver got down on one knee beside the table, and my hands flew to my mouth. Adrian, from the moment I saw you, I knew you were special, but I didn't know how special. I didn't know that loving you would teach me what it means to truly be home, not a place but a person, a feeling, a choice we make every single day. He took my hand, his own shaking slightly. I want to keep choosing you for the rest of my life. Will you marry me? I was crying too hard to speak, so I just nodded. Oliver slipped the ring on my finger, a simple silver band that was exactly my style, and stood to kiss me while the entire restaurant applauded. Is that a yes? He asked against my lips. Yes, 1,000 times yes. We got married in a small ceremony in Central Park the following spring. My family didn't come, that old wound still too fresh, too painful. But Oliver's family was there along with our friends and Zara from the coffee shop who sobbed through the entire ceremony. You two are my favorite love story, she said at the reception. You prove that sometimes the universe puts people exactly where they need to be. She was right. If I hadn't been working that particular Tuesday morning, if Oliver hadn't needed caffeine, if he hadn't been brave enough to keep coming back to ask for my number to say I love you first, we might have missed each other entirely. But we didn't. And now, 3 years married and 5 years together, I wake up every morning next to the person who taught me what home really means. It's not the brownstone we saved up to buy in Brooklyn. It's not the cafe I finally opened last year, though Oliver's logo hangs proudly above the door. It's not even New York, though this city brought us together. Home is Oliver's laugh when I make a terrible joke. It's the way he brings me coffee in bed on Saturday mornings, made exactly how I like it, not oat milk. It's his hand in mine when we walk through the park. It's the quiet moments and the loud ones, the easy days and the hard ones, the whole beautiful mess of building a life together. Home is loving him and being loved by him in return. I tell him this one night as we're getting ready for bed, brushing our teeth side by side in our bathroom. He meets my eyes in the mirror and smiles, toothpaste foam on his lips. You're my home too, he says after rinsing his mouth. You've always been my home from that very first morning. Even when I gave you terrible pastry recommendations. Especially then, though for the record the almond croissant was perfect. You nailed it on day one. I'm good like that. You're good at a lot of things, but the thing you're best at, he pulls me close, pressing a minty kiss to my forehead, making me feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, like I'm home. Right back at you, I whisper. We climb into bed, our bed in our home, in the life we built together. Oliver pulls me close and I rest my head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat, steady, familiar mine. I didn't believe in the concept of home being a person until I met Oliver. But now I know the truth. Home isn't always a place you return to. Sometimes it's a person you choose, a feeling you cultivate, a love you build day by day, choice by choice, moment by moment. And when loving him felt like home, I knew I'd found exactly what I'd been searching for all along, not a house or an apartment or a city, but a person who made every place we were together feel like exactly where I belonged. That's what home is, that's what love is. That's what Oliver is to me. And I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.